Good afternoon. Great to be here. Thank you, Stephen, for this nice welcome. Thank you to Callie. Thank you to the IIHF for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and really happy to be able to share some of the work that we're doing. So what I would like to do this afternoon is present a little bit of research, but the application of this research. What does it mean? What does it mean for hockey? What does it mean for coaches? My talk has two big sections, two big parts. First, I would like to talk about coaching effectiveness. What is coaching effectiveness? How do you know when the program is effective? And then I'd like to move from that, hopefully there's a message there, and to move from that to the area of transformational leadership. So the first, I'm going to put you to work. I would like at your table to discuss this question. And I'm not going to give you much time because I have a lot of slides. But I'll give you a couple of minutes at your table to discuss. And what I like you to do is think about, so if you are responsible of a program, how do you know that your coaches are effective? And if you're a coach, how do you know that you're effective? You can put a timeline on this if you want. You can say beginning of a season to the end of a season. You get to the end of a season, like we're starting the hockey season now. So at the end, how are you going to know that that your coaching staff have been effective? So I don't want big philosophical things. I just want indicators. What are some indicators of effectiveness? 2 minutes at your table. Discuss and write down these things. I'd just like to get a couple of responses. Doesn't matter. Pick a group. Pick a group. In general. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to have to stop it here. Okay, I think we can talk about this quite a bit. What are some indicators at your table? Is my microphone going? Or? Can you hear? Yeah? What are some indicators that you came up with? You can yell them. Like, how would you know if your coaching staff has been effective? Yes. Players want to come back. Okay. Yeah. The parents are saying good program. Yes. Good. What else? So what? But what is the good program? Like, yeah. So the kids are coming back. Parents are happy. The kids are having fun. They're learning. They're better hockey players at the end of the season than they were. So probably coaches have to do something. I'm asking you about the coaches here. Like what is a measure of a good coach? The players are having fun. The players want to come back. The parents are happy. The kids are learning skills. What else? Coaches knowledge. Great one, yes. Coaches are better at the end of the season, yeah. Sorry? Yeah, okay. Okay, so coaches learn throughout the season, okay? Coach achieves his goal. So what are the goals of the coach? So is winning one of the goals? Yeah. Okay, player development results. Okay. Good communication, good. Okay, so when we think about coaching effectiveness, what we're thinking about very often if we want to measure effectiveness, we're thinking about athletes' outcomes. And that's a kind of a weird place because we have a coach, but we're measuring effectiveness by measuring another group of people. And then we assume that the coach did something to achieve that. So whether it's winning, whether the kids want to come back, so there's outcomes that we want to achieve, and that would be, and all these outcomes, you know, that's a good starting point to start thinking about, okay, how do you measure fun? How do you measure skill development? How do you measure parents being happy. You can measure these things. Like if you can come up with ways of. But when we think about all this, you can think about ways of framing those outcomes. And this morning, and there's been a lot of talk about the long-term athlete development and about achieving this in the long term, and that's fine. That's one goal. So you want to achieve, you want to develop players for high level. That's the performance. You want to make sure that the players are coming back. They're playing hockey. They're interested. They like it. That's the participation. In hockey, any sport, there's lots of literature that would tell you that it's a powerful activities for kids to develop those initiative and leadership and discipline and these things that are very important for. That's the personal development. But the thing with this model here, and I can talk about this a while and can send you paper on this, but what's important to realize here is that the long-term athlete development will not happen if the short-term outcomes are not met of the kids. Like a 10-year-old, they don't usually think too long-term. Like the adults think very long-term, but the 8-year-old, 7-year-old, we need to create activities on a daily basis that are interesting and that are fun, that are enjoyable. That's what's going to keep, and sometimes it means that maybe it's not the best thing for 10 years down the road, but that's what we're going to do today because I want a smile on their face and I want them to come back tomorrow happy and they want to. So you can look at this in terms of timelines. So over weeks and months, we want to develop competence, better hockey players, relationship, connections with their coaches, their parents. We can do that through sport. We can do that through hockey. Confidence, higher level of confidence. So what you notice in all these outcomes, and probably some of the things you came up at your table could fit in here. That's not necessarily, but we can think about this as the 4 C's, the 3 P's, as a way of understanding outcomes. But again, it can be other things. But what's important in here is that there's things that is related to hockey, and there's things that's related to people. So when we're thinking about the development of hockey players, we want to develop competence and we want to develop performance. But we also want to develop confidence and we also want to develop relationship. So a good hockey players have high level of, they believe in themselves and that's the confidence. And sometimes it's related to activities that we do in hockey, but it's a lot about the skill that the coach has in terms of interaction that they have with their players. So there's programs that, whoops, I'm going backward. There's programs that, and I put fragmented athletes outcomes, and I think we see that. We see that in different places, different sport, probably not hockey, but where there's focus on competence and skill development and performance. And it happens. Those programs happen. And what I'd like to do today is try to look at, okay, what are those things that we do that would allow the holistic development of athletes and not fragmented like this, where there's just a focus on skill and performance in the long term. So the whole message here, and again, it doesn't have to be the 4 C's or the 3 P's, but what is it that we want to achieve in hockey? What do coaches want to achieve? Is we want to build strengths. We want to build assets. So we want to build those things that would allow a better person at the end of the season and a better hockey player. So building assets means that we have a foundation, and just these are the same words, I just put them reverse. But the foundation of all this is quality experiences on a daily basis. The kids go to the rink and they want to come, they want to be there. And they want, so coaches that are able to trigger interest, maintain interest, and create fun and enjoyable activities. And then over a seasons, if we develop competence and connection and character and integrity and compassion, if we develop that over a season, we don't even have to worry about the long term because that's going to happen by itself. But if we focus our program, and it's a little bit of a shift, and I'm not saying long term is not important, but sometimes we need to think a little bit more, what do we do to make sure that we keep that interest and that we keep the kids coming back and that motivation? So, one more, I'll give you another 1 minute again, because, yes. At your table, I would like you to think about these outcomes that we want to achieve. what do your organization do to meet or to achieve those outcomes? Okay, so I would like you to think about, you can think about education, you can think about training. What are the type of things that you focus on so that your coaches have to do? Like they do certain things. I don't know if there's certification in your program or there is different way, but what is the focus of that? 1 minute at your table. Okay, so I'll stop it here. Just same thing. Maybe you can just yell, what are some of the things that your organization would do to make sure that your coaches are well equipped, they have the tools to develop those assets and their players? Education. What kind of education? Sorry? Teachers. So pedagogy, how to teach, how to go. Okay, okay, good. What else? Mentor. Communication, you do that? Yeah? Okay, great. I want to hear more about that. Yeah? Other people? I'm sure there's a lot of. What do you do? Like, what do your coaches need to have to coach in your program? Sorry? The review. Okay, plan it. Okay, yes. So planning a season and then planning, great, that's good. So you teach. Okay, okay, okay. So I'm sure there's people here that are not speaking and could talk about, I would think that there's a lot of sport-specific skills training. There's strength and conditioning. There's recovery and nutrition. There's mental skill training. There's video analysis. And depending on the level we're at, then there's individualized coaching, like how do you do this? Then there's probably a lot of LTAD. So this thing about what do we do at certain age, and then there's what do you notice in all these here? What is common in all these programs where we teach coaches these things to be better coaches? Again, this is not an exhaustive list, it's just a list of, but what is common here that you see? Teaching skills, technical, hockey-specific skills. So we did research of coaching program around the world in terms of what those coaching programs offered. Mainly, it's based on sport-specific skills. So if you want to become a hockey coach, and there's absolutely nothing wrong there, you need to learn about hockey, and you need to learn the drills and how to structure a practice and a season and all these things, and that's very important. But the problem is that when we think about what we can achieve with sport, is that there's the knowledge of the sport. If you want to be a good coach, you need to know the sport. So I'm not putting down at all that list there. It has to happen. It has to be there. So it includes all the technical and the tactical and the pedagogical and the training and the nutrition. And that is one aspect of being a good coach. And you can get away and be a good coach just with that. But the thing is that if you want to be that expert coach, that most effective coach, you need the knowledge of the people. And the knowledge of the people have two dimensions. You need to know others, so that's the interpersonal. And then you need to know yourself as a coach. You need to know that's the intrapersonal, the ability to reflect. You go to a practice, the practice doesn't go well, you come back home. The one thing that coaches do often is that, oh, the kids were tired today, then, versus, oh, you know what, maybe I didn't plan my practice well, or maybe I could have done something else. That's the reflection. That's the intrapersonal. That's what you're doing right now. You're doing intrapersonal. You're reflecting on your practice, on your... But what I would like to focus on is on the interpersonal and the interactions that coaches have with their players, with their parents, with their assistant coaches. It's a big aspect of sport, but we put a lot of emphasis on the sport-specific knowledge that coaches should have, and we acknowledge that communication, that interpersonal skills are important, but there's not a lot of evidence-based programs that have been shown to have an influence and an impact on players that are out there. So that's what I would like to focus on. But before I go there, I would just like to present one slide that really want to point that message and make that message important in terms of where we're going with all this. We did studies, and then you have a list at the bottom, and I'm happy to send you those studies, where we, at the beginning of a season, so basically the first question I ask you, how do you know if you're effective as a coach? So we get players to fill out questionnaire at the beginning of a season and at the end of a season. And then throughout the season, we observe the behaviors of the coach. And then we notice if there's a very high increase of confidence and competence and connection and character, that team is doing well. What are the behaviors of the coach that predicts that? It's not the professional behavior. It is the interpersonal behavior. So what makes the difference between a good... So that's a foundation of coaching. But what makes the difference between a good coach and an excellent coach, an expert coach, an effective coach, is those interpersonal skills. So what are those interpersonal skills? That's basically the how of coaching. So the what of coaching is those drills, the power skating and passing and skating backward and forward and power play. So that's the what, that's the content. But the thing is that the how is how do you communicate? How do you say that? How do you give instruction to an 8-year-old or to a 15-year-old or to a 20-year-old? I'll give you an example here, and maybe it's not the best one, but I'd like you to think about the what and the how. So the example that I have here is a coach, a player during a game, always try to get the puck in the zone by controlling the puck. So the coach wants him to dump the puck, and then the player go in. So the entry of the zone. So between period, so I'm going to give you two situations here that the coach can talk to that player. So between period, the coach can go to the player and say, dump the puck deep in the zone and chase it, or I'll find someone else who will. Okay? That's instruction. I'm giving instruction to the player. Don't dump the puck. That's what I want. Or you can go to that player and say, carrying the puck across the blue line does not seem to work when we don't have space and numbers. What could we do differently? That's instruction too. The content is the same. But you probably notice, and I don't know if I changed my tone of voice, but the tone of voice, the delivery of that message is quite different. And what it creates on the players are very different types of response and emotion. And that has been shown in a lot of different places to have a huge effect on people. So it's not really, so we think a lot about the content, but how do I deliver this thing? And when do I talk to the player? Those are all questions that become very important in terms of how we become effective at those interpersonal interactions. So to be truly effective, it's more than what you coach. It's how your behaviors influence your athletes' outcomes. So that the how, the interpersonal behaviors. So just to show this, it's just a different visual, different ways of looking at this. But we can think about athlete development on a spectrum like this, where this is the maximum. This is the type of things where I achieve the potential that I want my players to achieve. And then at the other end is it's harmful. It doesn't work. So what we have here is we have the kind of summarizing, but that effective coach would have the professional behaviors. They know their hockey-specific skill, but they're also able to communicate it well and intervene at the right time and use the right words. Versus the average coach is not doing any damage, but they could be a lot better than they are. So that's the coach that has kind of the professional behaviors. And then there's the absent coach that are just managing, not doing very much. And then there's the harmful coach. There's the coach that, we'll talk a little bit about toxic coaching, but that where it's harmful to the player. So we certainly don't want to go there. But I think the one thing I want to emphasize here is that sometimes we're content with this. We're okay with this because there's no abuse, there's nothing going wrong. But the thing is that, you know what, we can be a lot better in terms of using sport, using hockey for the development of the person. So summarizing this, and then we wrote a paper in 2009 kind of, the main point I want to do with this slide, so you see the outcomes here, and you talked about what the coach needs to do. We want to achieve that, but if we want to measure coaching effectiveness, we cannot just measure this, and we cannot just measure this, but we need to measure the effect of this on the outcomes. How do the professional behaviors affect confidence? How do interpersonal behaviors affect competence and affect connection and relationship and performance? And these things are not incompatible. We can achieve that in sport. We can achieve participation and performance. And there's lots of research that at some point we will have to separate the performance versus the participation. But at a younger age, we can certainly achieve all these objectives if we structure sport in the right way. So, again, I've heard people that have those programs, and I know there's hockey programs that have those interpersonal education tools. But the point I want to make is there's a lot less. There's a lot less than the hockey-specific program. And why don't we have that many? There's a shortage of programs that are evidence-based, that are based on research. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing other things, and then suddenly they get into sport, and then, okay, we're going to do this because it works in business or it works somewhere else. But it has not been very tested or developed from sport. There's a lack of consensus. That's a big one. I think if you're all hockey people, I can leave you here and leave the room, and I ask you to talk about hockey, and you're still going to be here in 3 hours talking about hockey. And then I can say, okay, now we're going to talk about interpersonal behaviors. And I'm going to ask you, is that important? Yes, it is. You're going to say, yeah, it's very important. And then after 10 minutes, I bet you're going to leave. And then why? Why can you talk about hockey for a long time and then talk about interpersonal behaviors? Because of lack of, we don't have the right words. We don't have common words. We don't have the vocabulary to talk about. When you talk about hockey, you talk about power play and then defense, and then you talk about these things, and there's words, and when we talk about interpersonal behaviors, the problem is that there's so many different things we can talk about that suddenly we cannot communicate with each other. So the point of the next half hour is I want to give you a bit of that framework. Because the one thing that I really don't like when I talk to people about interpersonal behaviors, and then they go like this. People will go and say, oh, yeah, the soft skill. And then they go like that. They're not softer skill than any other skill. They are things that we can observe. They are observable, measurable behaviors. And then all we need, and we've been able to show this, just a very, very quick understanding of what these words are and what these things are, and then suddenly we start seeing them. You go to a practice and say, oh, this is individualized consideration. Oh, this is intellectual stimulation. Suddenly there's words that, oh, okay, I recognize those behaviors. So that's what we're going to try to do. So there is measurement concerns, but we can measure again. And then sometimes the resources are a problem. So happy to share papers about the transformational coaching. So this is the program that we've developed through research with a lot of different sport and research backing this up. So what I'd like to do next, and again, that is not the ultimate thing. We could have taken a motivational perspective and talk about this. We could have taken emotional intelligence. We could have taken other leadership perspective. And I think part of that is that's the problem. We're looking at interpersonal behaviors from a lot of different perspectives. So what we've chosen here is a leadership approach and transformational leadership as a way to understand those behaviors. And the reason that we chose that is there's research backing this up from a lot of different fields, not just sport, but business and education. And then the other thing is that it's been shown that very short intervention has an effect. So, and the other thing too, the last thing is that it's easy to understand. And for the players, it's easy to communicate. And again, I just have half an hour left to give you the message here, but probably we would need about 3 hours to really think about those behaviors. But I'll give you just a snapshot, and hopefully it's going to trigger something that will make you want to read more about this. So, the full-range leadership models, we're talking about when we're interacting with someone, we can be effective or we can be ineffective. And we can be passive or we can be engaged. Okay? So, in all these boxes, there's different types of leadership. So if I'm engaged and ineffective, I'm going to be toxic. That's the coach that yells, that's upset, that shows angers. If I'm not engaged and I'm not effective, it's laissez-faire. I don't care. I look at my phone and I do email, so that's the laissez-faire style. Then there's a transactional style. So that's a very interesting one because it's right on the bar here. Could be effective, but not effective too. So transaction is the idea that you're expecting something in return. You're going to do this and and it works. If you have kids, you know it works. You know it works that, you tell the kids to do something, you're going to give them an ice cream and whoops, suddenly they do the things. Or you give them money or you give them, so it works. But in the long term, there's some negative consequences to that. The neutral coach, nothing wrong with the neutral coach, but they're boring. They're not very exciting. And then there's that transformational coach here that we're going to define and talk about. So what I'm going to do next is I'll just go over these, spend a little bit more time over transformational, but I'll just show you a set of behaviors that came from the research that we're really able to observe those things. I'll show you video clips, very short video clips, to give you an example of the behaviors. But when we do this, usually we get coaches to have a workbook, and then they really reflect on those behaviors and think about when they can apply them. So again, I'm giving you a very short overview of this. So what is toxic? Toxic is when you're engaged and you're not effective. When we do this workshop, sometimes we spend a lot of time on toxic because there's always people that thinks I need to yell. It's important. It's important that, and then we go through a lot of discussion, and then we try to bring people to the fact that, there's no research that shows that this type of leadership lead to positive consequences. Okay, so what does it look? I'll show you video clips of different sport. I try to get some hockey one. So this is football, American football. So listen to this coach talking to the kids.
Okay, hey, listen, we're going to do 26 blasts this way. Actually, no, screw that. We're doing 16 boss. 16 boss. Ready? Ready! Hey, so you can't be playing like a little girl out here when you're on defense, right? Remember, running back's got to make a move and stay behind your freaking blockers. Get lined up and run the freaking ball when I say run the ball. Get lined up. Shh. Take your mouthpiece out. Take your mouthpiece out. You're okay. Great job. Shh. Slow breath. Slow breath. Slow breath, okay? Great job, dude. Reed, can you block someone for us? Run it. I called timeout like 20 minutes ago. Everyone saw me running. That's fair. Wake up, dude. Big block, and then we're going right back to you on the 26 blast, okay? We want a touchdown. We want a touchdown. You don't push someone off of you. Just put the ball down. Frankie and James, there is no reason why you're waiting for them to line up. We had a free snap here. I said run it. I said run it. I said run it. What the heck was that, Marcus? Go through the 6-hole. Come here, come here. That was probably the best run you did all day today, was that 6. That's how we should be running that play every time. Go over there and coach. Nothing to be happy about right now. Look at the score. All right? You are letting that guy block you the whole time on defense. You should have been in the backfield making tackles.
I made 3 tackles.
Yeah, well, you could have made more.
All right. Okay, so again, I don't want to have a long discussion of this, but you can think about what makes this coach toxic. What are the long-term outcomes of this type of coaching? Sorry. Yes. So when we think about the outcomes that we talked, if one goal is to help the kids' confidence and it doesn't create trust, and okay, we could have a long discussion, but the coach is not that bad, you know. When you look at, but just the sum of the words is like, oh, whoa, 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 you know. And then if it's repeated over time, then suddenly you if the goal is to achieve connection and character and building all this and not just the skill of the sport, then we should not have this type of coaching. Laissez-faire is pretty hands-off approach. So it's basically that coach that just is on their cell phone when the practice is, and just look at their Facebook page.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, so it's just basically showing no interest, not very effective as a type of interaction.
Yeah, keep going. Breathe.
All right. The neutral coach is, again, it's that one in the middle here. It's that boring coach. It's the coach that, you know what, same tone of voice, not a lot of excitement, not a lot of, and passive instruction, vague cues, not very precise in the language, and sometimes the use of cones. So you can see this coach here, you know.
Good.
You look at the practice and nothing wrong, but
And
nothing very exciting.
relax there once you finish. Relax there once you've finished.
So, again, what I want to emphasize here, you have these styles, neutral, transactional, and transformational. Nobody can be transformational 100% of the time. You're going to have practice where you're going to be neutral. You're going to have times where you're going to be transactional. Everybody has that, and we go through that. But the thing is that the value system that you have, is it transformational? Do you want the best for the kids? Do you really care about the development of the kids? That's the transformational coach. And showing those behavior most often will give you that label, and then sometime you're going to be transactional. And you want to avoid toxic and laissez-faire as much as possible. Okay, so that transactional is basically, again, using rewards and punishment, or just paying attention to the best player, just paying attention to 1 or 2 players. That's transactional. And then I'll show you a video that's a little bit like giving more attention to the players that are doing things right and not paying attention to the other one. So that style does work, and then that's why it's here. But like I said before, if you start using this all the time, suddenly there's a shift of motivation. And I'm doing an activity because I love hockey, but now I'm doing it because I want to avoid punishment or I want to get the rewards. And then it becomes an extrinsic form of motivation that is not healthy and does not keep the kids in sport as we would want. So,
Play. Show me what you can do. Yet, we've not yet. Who's going to be top of my leaderboard for this? Who's going to be top of my leaderboard?
okay, show me what you can do. Who's going to be at the top of my leaderboard? Not too bad, you know. But the thing is that whoever is going to be at the touch of the top of his leaderboard is going to get more attention and going to get more instruction and get more. So, again, a transactional style, you know. By the way, all these videos are public videos, so they're not the best example. I'll show you some hockey one. They're coming soon. For obvious reason, I have to take public things and not using some of the data that we have. Okay, transformational coaching. I think we're doing okay with time. Good. That is an important slide. Probably the most important one. So basically what transformational coaching is about, and I'll show you some videos of good coaches of transformational behaviors, is you want to make people, you want to make your athletes feeling that they are important and they're doing something important. And in any areas of life, when we're able to do that with other people, then we're giving them, we're helping them to develop as people. And then that can take the forms of different ways. It could be shown in a lot of different ways. But if coaches have this in mind, that anything else, any kind of intervention or interactions I'm going to have, I want to make sure that this kid, I care about this kid as much as I care about this kid. And that kid feels that. So it is spending time. It is using words that would show this. So what transformational leadership is, and some of you may be familiar with the theory of transformational leadership as a leadership theory that's kind of been used in business and designed there and developed there. But it's the 4I of transformational leadership. And it's a mouthful, and it's probably not going to resonate with you too well, after 5 minutes. But what we put here is we put what it means in terms of, but the first thing is idealized influence, is the value system that you have as a person. So practice what you preach. Inspirational motivation is the whole idea of empowering people, giving them autonomy, providing opportunity so that they can develop, having expectations and meeting those expectations. So having goals for every athlete so they know what to expect. That's the inspirational. Believe in your athletes. Any kind of behavior that does that. Intellectual stimulation is the idea of asking questions, getting them involved in the coaching process, getting people, the kids, and even if they're 7 and 8 year old, you just give them choices of drills. Just giving a choice to a kid would, I can decide on what we're going to do today. So that's the intellectual stimulation. And individualized consideration is this idea of person-centered approach. So we talked about athlete-centered. There's nothing wrong with athlete-centered, but this goes a little bit further than that. It's not caring about the hockey player only, but it's caring about the person, who they are as people. And then there's all kinds of time in a hockey practice, in a hockey environment, where you can inquire about the kid's school and the kid's family and how are they doing and the kids, they have life outside of hockey. And that's the individualized consideration. And when someone show that to you, you feel like you're being cared, and then suddenly your motivation goes up, and then you get all these things that are wonderful in terms of consequences. So what we did is we took that theory and we observed coaches in sport. Coaches in a lot of different sports, and then this was the work of Jennifer Turnage. She was a doctorate student at Queen's University. And what we did is we came up, and this is a lot of content, and I know I'm going quick, but we came up with 11 behaviors that seem to be applied to sport. And those are the behaviors that the coaches do, that we've been able to identify, that we're able to observe. And then if you give me I can go to a practice and take this coding system and I can code how many times a coach will show vulnerability. And I'll be able to identify that. And I'll be able to identify these. So what you notice here is that there's 2 behaviors under idealized influence. There's 4 under inspirational motivation, 3 under intellectual stimulation, and 2 under individualized consideration. Again, lots of stuff going on. What I'd like to do next is just giving you a sense of what it looks like, what these behaviors look like. So, idealized influence, there's 2 things. So the first one is discussing and modeling pro-social values and behaviors. So people learn from watching others, from modeling. So when you have coaches, I remember that was not a long time ago, we did a study in hockey where we had coaches, hockey coaches, we had Mike during the game, and we had the camera on the players, so we were able to get what the coaches were saying and the players were doing, and the coach stay, guys, don't take any stupid penalty. I don't want anyone to take penalty. We stay in control, and then the ref makes a bad call. The coach is on the bench, and then can start swearing at the ref. Okay, so if you're 12-year-old, so what are you thinking? The coach is telling me something, but the coach is doing something else. He tells me not to yell at the referee, but he yells at the referee. So that's this idea here. The idea is that what are those values as a coach, and how do you display these things? Because athletes watch. They watch those leaders. They watch the coach, and they copy those behaviors. The second one is showing vulnerability and humility, and that's a big one. And what happened when you apologize? When you make a mistake and you apologize, what happened? In a group, or you're creating trust. You're creating an environment of trust. But how many times do hockey coaches in a practice, the players are not understanding the drill, and the drill goes bad, and then what's the first thing that happens is the coach start yelling at the athletes, versus you know what? You guys have an exam tonight. You're tired. I know, the drill doesn't work the way we're doing it, or let's do something else. But showing vulnerability, apologizing for mistake, sharing experiences, sharing those stories that happened to you, to your athletes, and suddenly they look at you and they think, oh, the coach is like me. It's like I can be like him or like her. Okay, so just look at this video here. And think about this idea of showing vulnerability. Look at this coach.
You crying. I cry a lot too. You know what I'm saying? All right. So I want you you're pulling your blow. I don't know if you're facing fear, you're feeling that you may not make it, and we all face that from time to time.
Okay, so you look at this, and again, we don't have time to have a long discussion on this, but there's things you notice here in terms of the words that he use. He's down on his knee to talk to the kid at the high level, which would be very different than talking like that to a kid. Sharing experiences. I cry too. It happens to me. And then, so you see there's a lot of things going on in here in a very short period of time that shows the value of that coach and that idealized influence of that coach and the impact that it has on that kid. The next video is a recent video that was the Stanley Cup playoff this year. And I don't know if you remember, if you watch the Panthers, the Florida Panthers against the Carolina Hurricane. Paul Maurice at the end of when Florida won, asked Rob Bredemore to not go on the ice, that the coach should not go on the ice to shake hands with the players. And I just want you to listen to how he explains that. And this is not a message about we should not go on the ice as a coach, but the message is that what is the value system of Paul Maurice here? And the value system is that he's putting the player first, and he's not caring too much about the coaching staff. So just listen to this.
It seemed like you and Rod had an animated discussion at the end of the game. Was that just about the handshake line?
Yeah, that's all it was.
Okay.
And it's a personal belief, and I really appreciate what he did because I understand the risk, that there's a bit of a risk. So the story goes like this. I don't believe that the coaches should shake players' hands at the end. There's this long list of people in suits and tracksuits. I mean, we had like 400 people on the ice. They're all really important to our group, but not one of them was in the game. There's something for me visually with the camera on of just the men who played, who blocked shots, who fought for each other. It's the end of one season. It's excitement for the other. The last thing that a player on the Carolina Hurricanes deserves is 50 more guys in suits they have. They have no idea who they are, and that's not a negative. There should be something really kind of beautiful about just the camera on those men who played shaking hands, and we should respect that.
So again, the point is not should we shake hands or not, but the point is I think it's reflecting the values that this coach has and how he cares about the players and how he's setting up an environment where that's reflected and is shown. So what is idealized influence? Practice what you preach. And by doing this, so every time we think about this, everything we do with those athletes, they are copying. They're looking at us, and that's how kids learn. And the next one is inspirational motivation. So I'm just same process here. I'm just going to go through each one. So there's 4 behaviors here. So this would take a bit more time, but I'll cut to the chase right away. But basically what inspirational motivation is to make sure that we have goals and expectations for everyone in the group, not only the best player. That we are expressing confidence. When players are successful, when they're doing well, we're telling them. We're showing that, and it's genuine. Having a vision for the team. A lot of coaches have that, but making sure that that vision is present. And we refer to it, we talked about it, providing meaningful and challenging task and role so that the players know, we're doing a practice today, but I have no idea why we're doing this drill. So explaining, we're doing this drill because in a game, you have to skate backward and you have to get the puck in the corner, and that's why we're doing this drill. But just telling the player, and sometimes, depending on the age, you give less, but give a sense of, why are we doing these things? So, listen to this, coach. So this is Kara Lawson. She's at Duke women's basketball program. And some of the things, sometimes some of the comments we have about transformational leadership is that, this is soft. Like, I have to be tough. We have to be tougher. Well, listen to her. She's tough. But what she's communicating is confidence in her athletes and very, very clear expectations.
I was talking with Shay a couple days ago, and one of the things we talked about was how we all wait in life for things to get easier. Think in your own life, if you've waited for something to get easier. Oh, I just got to get through this, and then it'll be easy. I've just got to get through preseason, and then it'll be okay. I've just got to get through my junior year of high school, and then the classes are going to get easier. Or I've just got to get to my spring of my senior year of college, and it's going to be easier. It's what we do. We wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better. That's what happens. Most people think that it's going to get easier. Life is going to get easier. Basketball is going to get easier. School's going to get easier. It never gets easier. What happens is you become someone that handles hard stuff better. So that's a mental shift that has to occur in each of your brains. It has to. Because if you go around waiting for stuff to get easier in life, it's never going to happen. And then what happens? Oh, it's so hard. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I don't know when is it going to be easy for me? Oh, it's easy for other people. It's not. It's hard. And the second we see you handling stuff, handling hard better, what are we going to do? We're going to make it harder. We're going to make it harder. Because we're preparing for you for when you leave here. Not just basketball and life. And if you think life, when you leave college, is going to be all of a sudden get easy because you graduated and you got a Duke degree, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. So make yourself a person that handles hard well. Not someone that's waiting for the easy. Because if you have a meaningful pursuit in life, it will never be easy. If you're trying to win a championship, if you're trying to have a family, ask your parents, do you think it was ever easy for them to raise kids? Karen, is it easy? It's not. Any meaningful pursuit in life, if you want to be successful at it, it goes to the people that handle hard well. Those are the people that get the stuff they want. People that wait around for easy, you probably see them at the bus stop. They're waiting for the easy bus to come around. Easy bus never comes around. You've got to handle hard. Okay, so don't get discouraged through this time. If it's hard, don't get discouraged. It's supposed to be. And don't wait for it to be, I just got to get through the summer. And then it'll all of a sudden get easy in the fall. No, it won't. It won't. It won't get easy in the fall. So make yourself someone that handles hard well. And then whatever comes at you, you're going to be great. You're going to be great, okay?
Okay, so when you think about inspirational motivation, again, so this is college athletes. So that's, you probably don't want to do this with 10-year-old or say, but it's very, but she has very clear expectation making sure that athletes understand their task and their role and why they're there and that's inspiration motivation. That's what it is. There's clear goals in terms of what they want to achieve. I'll pass this one. So what is inspiration motivation? So it's this ability to believe in your athletes. And you see that in that clip. There's belief. There's it's a little hard, but you can do that. This is okay, and that's what. So third I is intellectual stimulation. So there's three things here: eliciting athlete input, asking questions, getting them involved, sharing decision-making and leadership. Getting athletes to do the warm-up, to do drills, to do different things, and emphasizing the learning process, not just the outcome, but how do we get there? Like really focusing on the process of achieving those outcomes. So this video is kind of interesting and showing here there's issues with intellectual stimulation, because what happens when you give power or autonomy to somebody else is you don't really know what you're going to take back. When I ask you the question at the beginning, you know what, maybe some people, they're going to come up with something and I don't know what I'm going to be able to say about. So when you're kind of giving autonomy to someone, you never know what you're going to get. So this coach, you can see, what he's asking the players at the beginning of a game is, what is our game plan? What should we do to win the game? And then just listen what the kids say.
We have an outstanding game.
Passing.
Yep. Chase.
Back check.
Back check. Anthony.
I have another thing about the other game, but it's different from this.
Okay.
We beat this team 3 times, and but the other game beat us 3 times, and so.
We gotta work hard. That's where Anthony's going with that. We gotta work hard. Connor?
We hustled.
Yes, we hustled. All right. Very good, guys. Now listen, today the captain is going to be Angel. He's gonna run the warm-ups. 2 quick laps around.
Okay, so what happened with Anthony is he was trying to speak with his mouth guard, but do you think it didn't work? Do you think that's a failure from the coach? No, I don't. So Anthony, even if he was not able to articulate words, there was something going on in here. And then when we ask questions, sometimes you don't get the answer you think, but you make people reflect, you make athletes thinking. And that's the goal of intellectual stimulation. And sometimes it's asking questions that are rhetorical questions, they don't really have an answer, but they just get people thinking. And that's what good coaching is to make your athletes think. And sometimes it may look like, oh, it didn't work, but I'll pass this one. The last one is intellectual stimulation. Oh, sorry. So involving athletes in the coaching process. Individualized consideration. Give me 5 minutes. Okay? Yes. Individualized consideration. Okay, 2 things in here. Showing interest in athletes' feeling. So individualized consideration is a big one. It's really showing interest in people's life, basically. The people that's the person-centered approach. And I'll just show you the video. I think it demonstrates very well that this coach cares about his players.
On behalf of the NCAA and Augustana College, welcome to the sectional semifinals of the NCAA Division III tournament. In the spirit of sportsmanship, we ask all fans act responsibly and courteously. Abusive language or disorderly conduct is unacceptable and unwelcome. Profanity, racial, or sexist comments, or intimidating action.
So what does it require? It requires a coach to spend a lot of time with each player. That's what individualized consideration is. It's spending time with each of your players and this, developing this relationship. I'll just show you here 2 clips. The first one is Daryl Sutter, and the second one is Paul Maurice. And they talk about the same thing. This is a rookie. So the first video is the rookie, so Jacob Pelletier for the Flames, Calgary Flames, played his first game in the NHL. Okay, there were people, his parents came from Montreal, there were tons of people, first game ever in the NHL. And then Sutter was asked about his game after the game. You'll see his answer. And then the second clip is Paul Maurice, same idea. There's a rookie playing for the, but you'll see. What I would like you to think about, which coach do you want to play with for? Which one of these coach? So here's Daryl Sutter. So that's not individualized consideration.
What do you think of Peltier's debut?
What's that?
What did you think of Jacob's first few shifts in the NHL?
Jacob Peltier. What number is he?
49.
49. 6 minutes, 35 seconds, 13 shifts, average 30 seconds a shift. Got 43 seconds in the power play, played 5 minutes, 52 seconds, had 1 shot and goal and 1 hit.
Beyond the stats.
What did you learn just from being on the bench and seeing what the veterans on the team are doing?
It's the NHL, 21 years old, got a long ways to go.
So just imagine you're that player. So same here. So Paul Maurice talks about a rookie that plays his first NHL game.
A few players have the opportunity to make their NHL
Yeah.
It's going to get louder.
What's the biggest key in managing some of the emotions and
Yeah,
pressure?
I don't want them to. I want them to be nervous. Like they get a standard speech, but it's true. You can win 5 Stanley Cups, 5 Hart trophies. You can be in the Hall of Fame, but you only ever get 1 first game in the NHL, and that's not your game actually. It's mom and dad's game, and all the volunteer coaches that helped you, teachers, everybody. So when they come to the rink, I tell them, I really don't care how you play tonight. I want you to be nervous for the national anthem, be overwhelmed, take it all in, but do it with a smile on your face and have some fun, because you only ever get one of these days.
Uwe said there was a point.
So very different. Okay, I will conclude. All right. So I have 5 take-home messages. I'll give them to you very quickly. We started talking about coaching effectiveness. I ask you, how do you know when you're effective? It's important to think about more than just outcome, but how the behaviors of the coach affect those outcomes. And a lot of the behaviors that we talked about today, they're there in terms of personal development, the confidence and the relationship and the connection and the character. That would be a very strong link between those types of behaviors. So if that's what we want to achieve with hockey, then we should pay attention to that. Second take-home message is what differentiates good coaches from expert coaches is their interpersonal behaviors, and it is the how of coaching. So really kind of differentiating the professional, really the hockey-specific stuff that we learn, but also the interpersonal, and that's how do we communicate, how do we give instruction, how do we give feedback. I'll just go to number 3. Transformational coaching gives us that framework where we can communicate and talk about this. I did this very quickly, but I think if we start, it starts to make sense, and you start seeing those behaviors, and we're able to measure them. And then number 4 is, that's a big one. It's, when we say the word transformational, it's a big word, transformational. But it's those small behaviors that leads to transformation, those very small little things. And the issues when we talk about this to coaches, I don't have time to do this. I've got so many other things. We're not asking coaches to add more time to their practice. You're still going to talk to your athletes. You're going to give them instruction. How are you going to communicate that? So it's like another column on your game plan or practice plan that say, okay, I'm going to give instruction, but that's how I'm going to do it. And then those small behaviors are very impactful. And then the last message is that coaching interpersonal behavior should help athletes feel that they are important and what they do is important. And that's what transformational leadership is about. So thinking about those small behaviors that has huge impact on people. All right, thank you very much.